Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of God Built This podcast. I'm your host, Maxine. We're on episode 103. And I'm joined with a colleague of mine, Mr. Jones, T. Jones. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. It's long overdue, but I'm glad you made it. And the reason why I wanted you on this show, because I know you're an intellectual. You're a strong thinker, a critical thinker, an independent thinker. And I just want to hear your thoughts on whatever we talk about today. And I want to get started on this controversy that's happening with inmates suddenly having access to TikTok, to Instagram, IG stories. And I'm just gonna pull up the clip real quick and play it so our listeners could hear. All right. Okay, so here we have the real, and these ladies are talking about inmates, how they are suddenly having more access to social media and the uproar of what that is and what that looks like. So let's take a listen.
Recently reported that many inmates in prison across the country are making TikTok videos, and it's going viral. Videos show them dancing, doing food tutorials, or just hanging out. I mean, some people think that because, phones are considered contraband, that they shouldn't be doing it, but others think it helps combat the stereotypes associated with incarceration. What do you think?
All right, let's get into this. I just want to say, I feel like being in this country, being in this society, we are too hypersensitive, too focused on the wrong things. And maybe I'm biased because I have a cousin who's incarcerated, and I don't give a fuck if he's on TikTok. Like, I don't care if he's on TikTok. I don't care if he wants to do the new dance move, and I don't feel like it's offensive. But there was another point raised that, well, if I had, or if I knew someone in prison who murdered a loved one of mine and I saw him doing the new savage dance, then I'm offended. What say you?
I say that the criticism to people enjoying basic luxuries in prison, it mirrors this quest to dehumanize people in prison. I mean, they're on TikTok, they're not harming anyone. Like, they are just participating in the basic functions of American society, which is the self-aggrandizing social media, performance. Like, that's literally all it is. So this push to exclude them from these basic human activities is just another, to me, it's another activity or action that is meant to show these are just not human beings, because of whatever mistakes they made in the past. They're not human beings, and therefore they should not be able to participate in these human activities. It's just dehumanization of prisoners, and that I don't fully get. So while I understand there's this natural human reaction to, be punitive as possible. You're in prison, right? You should be sad. You should be, restricted from any and all type of fun. You should be whatever. No, why? They're in prison. They're serving their time. Especially somebody as myself who's, anti-prison. Because the act of prison as itself is just a dehumanizing concept. No, I have no issue with, people enjoying themselves. As long as it's not infringing on the health of others, then no, I have no issue with it.
And I also feel like, well, okay, maybe it's not something everyone wants to see. Maybe people don't want to see those who have been, those who are incarcerated to have fun. I don't want to see them have fun. Why are they laughing? They should be continuously in turmoil for what they did. And there's no account taken into, well, there's a lot of people in prison who are not supposed to be there, who are not well sought out. There's not enough evidence for them to still be in there, and there's a lot of racism obviously taken into place for their place in prison. And we're worried about the wrong things. And I think about, okay, well, since Black Lives Matter has been such a strong movement since George Floyd, and just this whole summer, there's this push for abolitionist movement, or just anti-prison, anti-police, anti it all, and anti this system. And I'm still trying to grapple with, what does that look like? You mentioned how you're against prisons, essentially. So what does it look like when we move into, or if we do move into, a world where there is no consequence?
Well, I think that, and I'm not fully developed in my ideology on, abolition, prison abolition. I do think those who have committed nonviolent crimes should be released from prison. For those who suffer from, drug addiction, they should be in treatment centers. I think those who are in prison for selling drugs, especially drugs that are now semi-legal in America, should be given they should be put in some type of program where they can now make money off of these things legally, that we've, semi-legalized. Like I think Florida, some states just pretty much legalized damn near every drug possible.
Yeah, it was, was it Wisconsin or something? Like, meth is legal.
Oregon, one of those states. Everything, meth, weed, cocaine, like everything's legal. So like for those people who are in prison for nonviolent crimes, like they should be released, or they should be put into treatment centers, or some type of work program where they can make money on a legal basis. For those violent crimes, I think obviously depending on the level of violence, but just to rewind, I think if more people had like access to well-paying jobs, then we would have less violent crime. But since we do, I think, we look at the scales of violence from which people are actually in prison, and we decide, how long they actually have to stay there. Like, how can we reacclimate them in society truly? Like, that's what I think it looks like. I just think it looks like a culture to where we value people regardless of the mistakes that they made. And we just have a more, the word I'm looking for, a more caring society. Like, I think a lot of these problems take care of themselves, and we start breaking down like these systemic, casteist, institutions. Then we help create a society where people can make a mistake that lands them in some type of temporary restriction, and then they can also be reintroduced into society in a true form, and not just thrown out with nowhere to go, no access to housing, no access to capital, no access to like well-paying jobs.
So giving them doing the work before they even get a chance to go in prison. Like, well, before that step, let's give them jobs, let's give them quality education, let's have safer neighborhoods. Now there's this push to like, well, I want people who are seemingly more caring to be on the front lines. And I think feminism, I used to call myself a feminist. Now I'm leering away from that word, because I feel like it's now become an anti-men movement. As much shit I talk about niggas, like I talk a lot of shit about niggas. Like that's my niche. Like that's my thing.
So do I.
What? Like black men is just like, I wouldn't have a podcast without black men. Like it's because of y'all I have a podcast. And as much as I talk shit about y'all, I do love y'all. Like you guys are the forefront. Like I love my dad. I love the men in my family. And I don't see the need to change. So there's this movement or just conversations happening about, well, women should be more of the face of police. We should see women pulling us over. We should see women, writing us tickets or fighting crime. And this might sound a little controversial. I just don't necessarily feel that safety or protection, or like, if I'm afraid of the big bad wolf, I'm gonna call my dad. I'm gonna call, and my mom's a bad woman. Like, she's fierce too, but I immediately instinctively will call a man. I don't feel like there's no need to change a police force. I think we should instead, okay, there's bad apples, of course. Move the bad apples, not necessarily meaning take all the men out and have only women.
I think something's wrong with the tree. So like, I think that the tree
tree's
is
rotten.
fucked. Yeah. So like, if the tree is fucked, like the bad apples. I mean, instinctively they're all bad apples because the tree is bad, or the harvest is bad. I don't care who pulls me over as long as there is a system in place that holds them accountable for any wrongdoing that happens within that interaction. But I mean, I've had bad experiences with female cops. I've had bad experiences with male cops. Like, as a black man, I'm trained to not trust either one of them. And it's not necessarily because of who they are individually. It's because of the system that they are the arm of, basically, the muscle behind. So, like, again, I don't care. Like, to me, it just doesn't matter. To me, it's more of a systemic thing. But I just going with what you said about like not calling yourself a feminist. I believe in feminist ideology. I just the true definition, like this, the equality, social equality, economic equality, of between men and women. Would I call myself a feminist? I don't know if I've ever used that word to describe myself, because I just don't feel like I've done all the work to like deserve that title. So like, I'll stick to the ideology. I believe in the ideology. I just believe in equality, whatever that looks like. That's me.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the system is fucked. That's really the root of it all. The tree needs to be repotted. The plant is rotten. All of that. I just think of like, and then there's women. Here's the thing, and then like, I've experienced women who are in power, in high positions, whether it's just in a regular workplace. It could be at a school campus, or at corporate offices. And suddenly, when women get into power, and call me anti-women too, but like, I don't like them. Like, I just don't feel like, because for so many years women have not been given the opportunity to have power, and now when they do have power, it's like, oh well, I'm going to abuse this power as much as I can. I'm gonna condescend you. I'm gonna be so condescending. I'm gonna be so elite in my role, that there's I feel like there's a lot of relearning that we all have to do when it comes to what power looks like, what power means, what consent means, all of that. So it's not a man or woman thing argument. I guess off top, men naturally, I see them as protect and provide. Women, naturally, I see us as, nurturing and caring and all of these things. So I think it's hard. It's hard because it's a lot of different factors here, I would say. And I just don't have a direct answer.
I wonder how endemic it is for human beings, especially people who come from marginalized groups, to be distrustful of people who more so mirror what they look like, right? Because we know ourselves to be infallible. We all know ourselves to be flawed. I know where my issues as a man lay. So I guess I'm more trained to look at other men, black men, in certain, spaces, and be more critical, right? Like, I don't like, maybe it's with us being critical towards people who look like us in these positions, we're really being critical about ourselves. Like, I wonder how much of that like has to do with it. Like, as growing up, like me, my friends, just everybody we knew, we were anti-authority. but authorities mostly look like us. Like, I had black principals and black assistant principals, especially black male principals and black male assistant principals, and we bucked at them more so than we did black women or white women. Like, I don't know, I don't have a good answer for it, but it's just like something I've noticed in my 35 years. It's just like people just buck back at people mostly who look like them, and maybe it's a self-reflexive thing. I don't know.
That's a very good point. That made me really think about, because when I was growing up, I didn't have a lot, if not any. I would say, okay, my kindergarten teacher was a black woman. My middle school years, I had one black teacher, and he was the music teacher. So I saw him like once every 2 weeks. It wasn't even a big deal. Everyone else pretty much was white. And in undergrad, that's when I finally had a little bit more black professor. No, I only had one black professor. He was my favorite. He was amazing. So I guess, yeah, I think it's a authority thing. I think it's a, like, how there's this like black hole, like you immediately see another black person after only seeing white people, and you give a head nod, and now I'm supposed to respect you. Now I'm supposed to, acquiesce to you. And what if you're not, like, I think a lot of black people who are in high positions tend to be white in a way. And what I mean by that is, like, they forget where they come from. They forget who they are, and they look down on you like, oh, look at me, I made it. And now I'm supposed to treat you like, like this little, dirt. So yeah, I think I am distrustful of black people in power if I don't know them personally. And I think that's really it. I am distrustful. And it sucks to say that out loud, but I feel more inclined to just follow or just go ahead and be in line, I guess, with the white person in power. Oh my gosh, that's horrible to say out loud, but I don't know why is that?
I think overall we should be distrustful of anybody in power until they like prove themselves otherwise. Like, I think it's an unlearning. Honestly, like we're at this precipice in society to where we're just unlearning everything, and like we have to unlearn the super conscious things, as well as the subconscious things that go on in our brains. Like, you just went through a metacognitive subconscious like self-reflection on your relationship with authority. Like, I think we're all doing that to some degree. And in doing that, like, we start to uncover some things. I don't realize how vain I am until I'm just scrolling and I see somebody that I don't think is attractive, then up to my standards. And I remember doing that, like, it was a few weeks ago. I was just looking at like one of my old students' pictures on Facebook or Instagram or something, and like he had, a woman with him, and I was like, that's what we're doing. And I had to stop myself and like, why do I care what this woman looks like? Two, just because she doesn't meet my, very, very like vain standard of like beauty, then like, does that make her not beautiful, or does that make her not realize, living up to my standard, which who cares about my standard? So like, it's these little things that go on that we just have to unlearn. First, we have to like self-reflect and figure those things out, and then we have to unlearn
them. Damn. Yeah, we do have to unlearn them. When I think about beauty standards, though, I feel like who the fuck is that? Like, I'm quickly asking the question of like, why this person and not that person, or why, like, I think about, okay, so undergrad, that was finally a pool where I'm in, and I see many white people. My high school years, I was amongst other black people, and it was more diverse. Undergrad, many white people. There were black people, of course, but it wasn't as like, it was a community of black people. That's how many black people it was. And though when I saw the black men, I'm like, excited to see black men, exciting. And then I see the black men with their white girlfriends. I'm just immediately, I feel rejected. Like, I don't even know them. I don't even know them. I just met them. It's freshman year. And I'm immediately feeling rejected because I look at this black brother, I look at this man, and I'm like, he's dark skinned like me. He has similar features, and he comes from the same block as I do, or he's from Boston too. And all of these things, I'm like, oh, but how did we get here? Like, and this white, like, it's not even like how there's white girls who appear kind of black, kind of Rachel Dolezal type of black white girls, and try to get down or be down. This white girl was white girl, like blonde hair, like this was a white girl, blue eyes. I'm just like, how do we get there? And so I immediately felt rejected. I don't even know this man. So I'm wondering, like, I think, I know we're going in different ways in this conversation, but like, I think about the standard of beauty, or suddenly when black men, or has a black man, what does that look like when you are now in a new environment? Say if you grew up with all black women and you suddenly have a non-black woman as your spouse, has your mate, or has a girlfriend at the time, and she's not looking like the same girls who you grew up with. What does that mean? Was that a conscious choice, or was that something that you just naturally fell for?
I mean, I think it depends on the man. I've seen men choose partners outside of their race for different reasons. I've seen, men, myself included. I dated a Hispanic woman about 3.5 years. It was my longest relationship until my, marriage, basically. I chose her. I met her. I met her at a party at U of H, and we hit it off, and it was cool. I've seen men choose, women outside their partner because they wanted to like juxtapose black women. For some reason, like these different tropes or these different mythologies that about black women, that we still see that black women are difficult. Black women they don't submit, or whatever. So like it just depends on the man, honestly. I'm very, very unsure. I do not trust men who choose people outside their race because of some type of mythology or ideology that they have about black women. Like those, I try to stay away from those men as much as possible. But normally it should just be, I find this person attractive. We vibe with each other on a personality perspective, and we move forward from there. But I've also seen like those relationships that happen out of like this natural just attraction, like evolve into something else. Like, even though I got with this person because I was attracted to him and we vibe with each other, now they become like this anti-proxy for, the women that I've dated in the past. Like we go through these mental gymnastics in these relationships, and they reveal a lot about people, especially when race is thrown in there.
They reveal a lot. Like as soon as I saw him with that white woman, I'm like, oh, he hates his mom. That was the conclusion. That was it. Like, I don't care if he loves his mom. No, he hates his mom. He hates his mom. He hates his sister. He hates himself. Oh, I wrote it off. And of course, there's like I'm not talking about the ones who I just, we grew up together. She's my best friend, or like, obviously, but I just feel like you hate your mother. Like, I think there's something else there. But yes, I think I take it personal. I take it personal because it just, I feel rejected. I feel like, oh, if I walk into this room and a white girl is beside me, you'll immediately see her. Like, there's a ray of light around her. And I'm just like, oh, but we're of the same ilk, and I think also like with black men, it's just you mentioned how you just you find a person attractive, and it's like, okay, that's cool and all, but y'all have more of an openness, or I would say a privilege, because I don't find white men attractive. Like, I don't look at them, or like I don't even see them. Like I don't see them. Like they will have to walk by me and be like, wow, I don't see them yet. Y'all just be seeing them. I'm just like, oh, seeing the white women.
Well, you'd be surprised at how many black men see white women or just non-black women in general as like a status symbol, or like this
Right.
ticket into. Which is funny. I'm literally finishing up, like, meaning I'm on like the last page of Cash by Isabel Wilkerson.
Oh.
And earlier in the book, one of the earlier chapters, she talks about how the thing about this caste is so ironclad that like you can't really you can't marry yourself into like this higher status, this higher tier, this hierarchy. But people try. People, I have this white woman. She comes with this level of status. So in doing that, I get to marry myself to her status, and it just doesn't work like that in the grand scheme. But yeah, like you'd be very surprised at how many men like not just see white women, or Latino women as like the status symbol, but they see them subconsciously. Like a lot of them don't even know it, but like a lot of dudes do hate their mothers. Like a lot of dudes do hate their sisters. They do hate their aunts. Like at least they hate what they represent to them.
Mm-hmm.
They may not hate them individually. They love their mother, they love their sister, but they hate that together, me and this black woman represent like two sides of the same coin, which is like we're at the bottom of this hierarchy in American society. And yeah, they resent themselves. They resent the women in their lives. Like, and a lot of them don't even know they do it, but through the different levels of sexism and patriarchy and these things that become embedded within like our ecosystems, yeah, like some resentment goes from that. And I think a lot of that does lead to some of the decisions that people make with the partners they choose to settle down with.
Yes, exactly. Black men hate their mothers. That's the title of this episode. So speaking of resentment, Dave Chappelle has a lot of resentment towards any digital platform streaming site that is playing his show, The Dave Chappelle Show. And, some say it's iconic. I was never really on the Dave Chappelle train when he first came out, or like the earlier years. I didn't get it at the time. It just wasn't my jive. I love Chris Rock. But it's funny now, he had two Netflix specials that came out probably 2 years apart, like pretty recent, that I love. Like it's really funny. And like I like him. I like his comedy for the most part. I do, I now we're living in such a politically correct time. You can't say anything about homosexuals, about transgender, about anybody. You can't make a joke about women. And if you do, you're a misogynist. And if I could be less politically incorrect, I would. Like I wake up every day, I'm thinking, how can I be less politically correct? Like I love to just be honest. And I hate this whole policing that we have, especially around comedy. Like that's the whole point of comedy. But anyway, that's my whole little rant about that. Dave Chappelle is going out and he's having these little 10-minute, 20-minute PSAs. And he's not telling jokes, and I'm just upset about that. Like I hate that. Like I get it, he's a great storyteller, he is, I give him that, but I want to hear some jokes. I don't want to hear about how upset you are being this multi-millionaire. I don't know his pockets, but I think it's fair to say he's a millionaire, and you're complaining about not having not getting paid and not getting the residue of your labor. And that's real, and I get that, but I also just don't care. Like I don't give a fuck. And I want to play this clip real quick of him sharing his disdain, resentment, all of that. And I'm just not here for it. So let's just play a quick clip of it.
First Nicholas, and I'm honored to give it to him. They're going to pay me for this show. I called my agent. I said, is there anything I can do about this show? And he said, no. Well, fuck you too then. You want something done right, I guess you got to do it yourself. So I'm not going to the agents. I'm coming to my real boss. I'm coming to you. I'm begging you. If you ever liked me, if you ever think there was anything worthwhile about me, I'm begging you. Please don't watch that show. I'm not asking to boycott any network. Boycott me. Boycott Chappelle's show. Do not watch it unless they pay me.
All right. What say you? What say you?
I say that so this is multi-layered front. I too would like Dave Chappelle to tell more jokes. These things.
Thank you.
But like these little, I guess, Lucy's that he does, like little 20-minute Lucy's, are, from what I understand, is like him at smaller comedy clubs where he kind of like tests out material, especially for like the big Netflix stuff that he's absolutely getting paid millions for. So like I don't have an issue with it. I do understand like the larger thematic point that he's making. I understand people saying like, hey, I just don't care about this plight that you're going through. Like you have one of the most popular like sketch shows ever, and you're not getting paid from it now. Like, okay, but you're a multimillionaire now. The funny thing about it with Dave Chappelle is that he's asking for the same thing that he doesn't really provide a lot of the groups that he, tells jokes about, people, LGBTQ, transgender people, like people who want to be called a certain way or treated a certain way. Like he kind of discards that a little bit in the sake of comedy. So like, I find that ironic. But ultimately, like I'm a Dave Chappelle fan. Like just full disclosure, like I was in college. Like I was at the beginning of college. Matter of fact, I was at the end of high school when the Chappelle show came out. And talk about like the perfect timing of like that's like catching lightning in a bottle. Like I've been fortunate enough in my life to be born around like these perfect moments in time to like really like catch the zeitgeist of some really popular things. And like Chappelle show was one of those things. And from there, like he's just been one of my favorite comics. But I get what I get we're in this larger fight. Honestly, like so many of these things are larger than what they seem on the surface. Like we're just in this larger anti-labor fight in America, just in general. Like we're seeing more corporations just disregard workers. Well, from your multimillionaires in sports and entertainment, all the way to teacher unions. You know what I'm saying? Like so, we see corporations just disregard the feelings, the work, the intellectual property of people underneath them, and I think that we can't lose sight of that. Like the fight that he's fighting is not something that we can necessarily relate with because we're talking about this super popular show where he had the opportunity to make a lot of money from. But the larger fight is we should feel some level of empathy for just intellectual property being stolen because this is happening in so many different pockets, across the world, honestly, not even just America. So yeah, but I would like Dave to also address the fact that the same thing that you're asking from Netflix and Comedy Central, these groups who have less power than he has are asking the same from him. So
did you see? Okay. I hear you. I agree, right? I agree. But that joke, I forgot which Netflix special it was. It was one of the two that he released like back to back. And he made the joke of the LGBT, like going in the van. All right, I'm the L. I know, like, okay, I hear you. Yes, everyone should have rights. But that shit was funny. Like
no, that shit was funny. No. We don't have to lie about that. That's like this is funny.
Right, this shit's funny. Like everyone gets these jokes. Like I don't. Yeah. I'm a woman. I'll get these jokes. I'm a daughter of immigrants. I'll get these jokes. Like I have all of these, all these labels we want to put on people. Everyone get these jokes. Like you're not exempt. So I was gonna say that, but Monique, just last year was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Hey y'all, Netflix is not paying me my worth. Netflix
Right.
is being sexist, is being misogynistic and racist." She pulled out all of the cards, and suddenly everyone's laughing Monique out the park. Like, Monique, the park is
Mm-hmm.
Monique. Like, suddenly all of her credentials was out the window, and I'm just like, wait, how we instantaneously we are giving Dave Chappelle all the support. And yes, I agree with IP. Protect your
Mm-hmm.
IP, protect what's yours. No one should take your name and make money off of it, make millions off of it, and you not get anything. Like, right? I agree. I just want to understand, where was that energy for Monique? Where was that angst for her? I was riding for her, and I think, people like to laugh at, well, it's the number that she requested. I forgot
Yeah.
how much she wanted, but she wanted a lot of money. And I feel like we as civilians, right, regular folks in this society, we look at a specific millionaire number and we laugh it out the park, like, girl, you not worthy of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfair. I love Monique. Monique had me crying. She is the original queen of comedy. And it's unfair how we dismissed her. We didn't even give her an opportunity to go on this train. She was on The View uh on this tour, telling her side of things. And Whoopi Goldberg, another black female comedian, laughed her out the park too. And it was just like so sad. Like, where is the
Mm-hmm.
support and I don't want to make this whole black women, black men thing, but it's like, it's blaringly in my face that, oh, the difference is she is a woman and she's not getting the same treatment, and yet this other comedian is instantly getting this
Mm-hmm.
treatment.
It's yeah. Well, Monique, like, she was really just asking for pay that was on the level of other top comedians. I don't remember if she was asking for like the same number that Dave Chappelle got, or the same number that Chris Rock got. It's just like she felt she deserved to be paid on the same scale. That, and I applaud her for fighting for it. Now, if you would have told me head off that Monique is getting the same amount as Dave Chappelle, based on their level of, their accomplishments, whatever, an argument could be made. Yeah, he should be paid more, but like, ultimately, who cares about that argument? Like, there are people who are less talented than Monique who are getting paid, millions out the ass, what I'm saying, because
Amy
of whatever
Schumer.
reason. Oh my, yeah, Amy Schumer. Like that should never happen. So I support her fight. And I think ultimately that's what we all should get behind. Like, if you can quibble about whether she deserves to make 50 million like Dave Chappelle made 50 million. I want people to make as much money as possible. One, two, we should support that fight. We should support somebody willing to take on big corporation and say, I deserve this because of this. So yeah, I supported her. I supported her fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I just think people can't forget the Parkers. I love that show. Like, when you say you grew up on Dave Chappelle, I grew up on the Parkers. That was my shit. Like, UPN, that was the network. The Parkers,
Moesha.
Moesha,
Oh
Half and
yeah.
Half,
Oh
like
yeah.
all of us.
Girlfriend. All that.
Girlfriends, that's on
Yeah.
Netflix right now. Like, what? I still sing the Parkers theme song. Like, and I'm still thinking, like, I'm still trying to do the runs. Like, that's the shit. Like, she
Oh yeah.
deserves 50 million just for that show. Just for that show.
Comic View. She's headline
Comic
tours.
View.
She's a pioneer. She
She's a
deserves
pioneer.
her flowers.
When she was giving, she did a comedy show for incarcerated women, and that was a nice show. It was on the Oxygen Network. Like, can we stop doing that? I just, there needs to be some fairness along the lines when it comes to the fight that we're fighting. It's all the same fight. So why can't she have the cake too? Why can't she eat just as much as, Dave Chappelle? And, we could argue on whether or not it's the same caliber, and that's fine, but she needs to be in that tier some way. So it just really
I agree.
pissed me off. So Summer Walker is I love her. I do love her. Her anxious ass. I do love her. I just she recently yeah, it's like a lot, right? Okay, so she recently revealed that she's pregnant with London the Track's baby. And I guess I have a complex about pregnancy, about parenthood. So instantly I'm not the one who gets super excited when someone gets pregnant. I don't really care. Like I just like, okay, if that's what you wanted, cool, great. I'm not like, some people react and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, like, I just don't really, I go about my day. I don't really care. And yes, it's a blessing to have children. I think it's an honor, of course. I just also see it, I think logistically more than with my heart. And sometimes it's a burden, sometimes it's not. But like I think sometimes like, well, lately we've been seeing a lot of reports of her, blocking him or saying on and off, they're on and off, or talking shit about him online. And seeing this news that she got pregnant, my instant thought was not, oh my gosh, congratulations, amazing. It was like, oh damn, with him, like, he's a baby daddy. Like it wasn't like, I'm not happy for you. Like I just what? Like and it goes back again with the PC culture. Like you gotta instantly be happy when someone's pregnant. Like, no, I'm not happy. I'm not happy for you because it doesn't seem like I don't know the environment, of course. They may be very happy, but like it just doesn't seem like that. She recently posted what she said. So she said, Black men gotta start doing better when it comes to being a father. My grandfather lame, my father lame, and this nigga lame. And I was like, okay, shit. She goes on to really go rash him, and she basically talks about just his lack of presence in his children's life. He has children before Summer Walker got pregnant with his other child. And why I think it's a lot of questions here, but my first question is why 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 is that? Like, why are we, she's a Black woman, he's a Black man, and this is another story of Black men and Black women who are unmarried and continuing this baby mama, baby daddy stereotype. Why is that?
Well, that stereotype extends beyond race, though. Like this multiple studies show like that Black men are actually more involved in their children's lives compared to men of other races. So I think what it comes down to is we all know a lot of people in general who are not good parents. we know a lot of men in general who are not actively in their child's life or not as active as they should be. We just happen to be Black, meaning we know a lot of Black men. So like that skews our, perspective on Black men. But like as many Black men as I see who have multiple baby mamas, who are, in prison, who are, just struggling to stay employed, whatever, who are not as present in their kids' lives as they should. I know a shitload of dudes who are, taking JC Penney pictures every damn Christmas and stuff like that. So like that's one thing. Two, we have to remember that I don't think Summer Walker would not be the poster, woman for like great mothers herself. Like I think that's just a toxic relationship in general. Like both of them have issues that they need to work through. And I love Summer Walker. I love her music, but like I have no reason to listen to Summer Walker when she's not recording. Like she's not the most well-read person.
So
like let's put it like that.
So you are not following her parenting tips?
I am most certainly. I'm not following her dieting tips. I'm not following her views on politics and stuff like that. And I say that as somebody who follows her on social media, and I see these things. I just keep scrolling. I love her music. I just keep scrolling. But yeah, I don't care either. Like it just seems like a bad relationship. Like and you tend to think about, okay, now we're going to raise a child in this environment where he has other children who are in this environment, and it's just like that part, that particular cycle, the London cycle, I'm not a big fan of, but London on the track is not representative of the larger black male.
So he's not the spokesperson? No.
He's not the spokesperson. Like we don't follow him.
Good to know. Thank God. Whew. I, I believe a great album is on its way for sure.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to that. I also want I just want better for all of us, black men, black women. And yes, there are many white fathers and maybe Indian fathers who are not in their lives of their children. And um I think about just, the structure of a black family, the black home, and how it was eradicated from the beginning from, our enslaved ancestors' days. And I'm wondering, like, what's, it's so many years past slavery. We're 2020, and there's been some progression, right? In just race relations and just black equity and what that looks like now compared to how it was then. I'm still I just it just cringes me a little whenever I see yet another single black mother, and when I see yet another single black father, and yet when I see another broken family home. Like, I dated this guy, and my listeners know him as Boston Bay. I keep on talking about this nigga, but because he you know how you leave a toxic relationship and you realize, oh my gosh, this was a really like, this really fucked me up, like mentally, emotionally. And I remember one time I was with him, and we chilling on his bed, everything's cool. He gets a call from his baby mama, and there is some miscommunication. They were talking about the pickup time for their son, and I guess she was still talking about something. He immediately got annoyed and just hung up on her, and I'm just laying in bed with him like, oh, like, this is uncomfortable. You're gonna talk to her like that? And at that time, I'm like I'm still growing into who I am every day. And at that time, I wasn't as I am right now enough, right? Like, I wasn't as vocal enough. So in that time, I'm thinking these thoughts like, damn, this is how he talked to her. And yes, I don't know their intricacies in their relationship, but I just think again of, wow, why are you speaking to her like that? Like, she birthed your child, and yes, your child's 8, and of course there's not these instant lustful or romantic relationships or feelings for this woman anymore, because so many years past the birth of their child. But I think about, just there is just a lack of respect.
There's also just a lack of proper decision making when we start talking about the people that we lay down with, and either choose or don't necessarily choose to procreate with. So many factors go into that, like education. Like, people who have education tend to choose partners, within the same education level, and they tend to like have longer relationships, more healthy relationships. Income level, like, it's just so many things. Age, so like I can't preach about how, you treat the woman that your baby mama or whatever, because I was off, in a past relationship, I was very close to being that. Like, it could have been me as well. For all my good intentions, like, I was with the wrong woman, and she ended up pregnant, not keeping it. But if I would have gone on and we would have kept that child, I would have been miserable. You know what I'm saying? Like, and my actions, I don't know if I would have been able to hide that for the sake of a child. So, but I was 24, like 23, 24. Not a lot of money. So, like, these things, like, they restrict, like, how well we choose the person that we're with. Like, I would not have chosen her, not even 2 years, 5 years later, what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Let alone 10 years later. Like, again, it goes back to, like, the London thing. Like, we have to be better. People have to be better about choosing these relationships with long-term consequences. because we're not just doing disservices to ourselves and the person we're with, but like it's a whole child. And like it does create a cycle to where, you know, I look at it myself. Me and all my friends, none of us grew up. Well, only one of us grew up with a father in the house, right? Like, and that's fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, because these nuclear families are kind of a thing of the past. You know, one father, one mother, and a bunch of kids, and they're all same last name. Like, that's a thing of the past. But where it does affect is that you grow up not understanding what a toxic relationship is or what a good relationship is. Like, do we know the difference? Are we able to spot the intricacies that will let you know, like, hey, you're probably going to be miserable with this person, or this is probably not something that you should be engaged with on a day-to-day basis. So like, we ended up like learning these things later in life. Like, it wasn't until I was, damn near 30 to where I was like, okay, oh, this is how I, engage in a relationship. This is how I treat somebody, like, on a day-to-day basis. It's not just like physical, or I'm not cheating, so I'm a good man, or I'm a good husband, good boyfriend, whatever. It's a lot more to that. We don't learn these things because we come from these cycles of bad relationships. I think that's the bigger thing. Like, and again, this is something that goes beyond race. Is like, we're shitty at choosing relationships, friendships, work relationships, like romantic relationships. Like, we're just really bad as people because of 1,000 factors. But like, that's the thing I think that needs to be, if we can clean that up on a broad level and just say, hey, maybe don't choose the person who doesn't value you or who talks to you in this particular way, or who does not, put you before them at least, a good amount of the time. Like, these are the things that we don't learn. So like, we end up learning these things well into these long-term relationships. Like, I learned how to be a good husband midway through my marriage. You're like, this is because I didn't have that model going into it. So yeah, like that's why I started looking at like people like London and Summer and whoever, like these other examples we have of just bad relationships. And like you said, I just want more. I want more for y'all.
I would say the past 6 years, I learned of the term emotional intelligence. And I never knew that term. Like, I did not know. I did not grow up with that. My parents didn't teach me emotional. Let's have emotional intelligence talk. Like, no, it was not a thing. And I was learning about. I'm like, wait, there's a way to speak to people that meets their emotions and their needs, and there's a way to be keen to that. There's a way to know what or how to be in a relationship. And growing up, I have 2 parents in the household, still married, and people like to say, oh, well, at least your parents are married, at least, X, Y, Z. My parents are great, they are married and they're great and all, but not throughout their marriage did I witness great examples of what a romantic relationship looks like. And oftentimes when you are like, has a child of immigrant parents, and growing up in Boston, I have many peers who are in the same boat, like children of immigrant parents, and the like expressions of love is not a thing. Like, what? Like, we don't say I love you like that. And just now my mom is saying I love you. Just now my dad says it too, but like it just wasn't a thing growing up. And it happens only when you get into trouble and they want to remind you, I love you, right? Like, after you hit me. Okay. So I think, like, love to me was not a clear thought of a healthy relationship. I immediately assumed that, okay, well, toxic love is where it's at. If he's not yelling at me, he don't love me. Right. If he's not calling me back in a timely manner, he doesn't love me, or he doesn't really fuck with me like that. If he's not gaslighting me, leaving me on red, ghosting me, then he's thirsty. Like, I don't want, I want my nigga to chase, not be available. I would really when I tell you, it's crazy saying it now, because I would really believe that bullshit. Like, what the fuck, mama? I would believe that bullshit. And you know, I know I'm not alone. And I think about like, what does that mean to you? Emotional intelligence. What does it mean? What does toxicity means? What does that mean? Because, maybe my perspective as a Black woman, but maybe it means the same for you as a Black man. But love is just, you learn as you grow, right? You get older, you learn more, you have more experience, and you evolve. And thank God, like, I'm so grateful for growth. I'm always seeking to grow more. And I just wish I knew some things before. Like, I don't know. Yeah, but go ahead.
Emotional intelligence for me means being able to like step outside of yourself and recognize like those cues, those human cues that people give off all the time, subconsciously or not, and being able to make the correct, be able to react in the correct way. And so often, because as human beings, we tend to look within ourselves, right? Like how I feel, what I want to do, what I want to eat, how I want to spend my time, and realize like you're in a relationship with somebody else, and like it's just this tennis match back and forth of um, kind of submitting, like giving up part of yourself for this other person, or recognizing when you should give up part of yourself for this other person. But like because people are naturally passive aggressive, people give off these cues. Like I'm hurt. Like I may not say that I'm hurt, but I'm hurt, and it's like very visible, like, and it's very obvious. Or the thing that you said I didn't like, or I'm bothered, or I'm hungry. Like just these different cues. And if your emotional intelligence is high, which comes from experience, honestly, and it comes from like having those like really crucial conversations with yourself and like other people, especially your partner, then you're able to recognize those things and act accordingly. But like that takes unlearning a lot of the selfish things that we carry into these relationships, just in general. Then like I can only speak from experience. I'm somebody, as you know, my reputation is that I'm, bluntly honest. Like this was passed down to me from my mother, and her mother before. Like this is how I grew up. This is the family I grew up in. So long, I would be like supremely blunt, and because the women that I was with, they understood where I got it from. I use that as a crutch. It's like, well, you know me, like my family. We're just blunt. That's just how we are. Like you hear that a lot. That's just how I am. This is what I do. And
like you're a fucking asshole. Like that's how you are.
Yeah.
Like you're a cheater. That's how I am. Does you know what the family? Like what? No.
Yeah, but like it can't be that way forever. You know what I'm saying? Like I also have this tendency. I'm an introvert. Like there's times where I just want to be within myself. I want to just sit quietly, read, and I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to be talked to.
And just to clarify, you're not an asshole. I don't think you're an asshole to the listeners. I don't think you're an asshole.
I am.
Well, okay. Well, I haven't experienced asshole, at least not yet, but we'll see.
Oh man, I have. Many people have. But I can't rest on that. I can't just be like, well, I'm an asshole. Like, get over it. Like, no, I have to be functional. I have to be functionally employed. I have to be functionally married. I have to be a functional father. So, like, I just step outside of your habits and,
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just empathy.
Empathy.
Yeah.
Empathy is hard. I as much like I could cry while watching a movie. I could cry while watching a commercial. Like, oh my gosh, this is so like I could see the message in it. Like a Disney movie would what? There was it wasn't even this movie. It was it's Over the Moon. It's on Netflix. Oh my gosh, you should watch it. Like it's really good. But I don't know if yeah, it's really good. I don't you want to watch it with your children, but like or just buy it. Like I watch it by myself. Like it's that good alone as an adult. But I was watching it and it tells you about like how losing someone, whether it's due to death or just the end of a marriage, the end of a relationship. Losing someone impacts you so much that you feel so like you feel unable, like you are handicapped from moving on. And moving on is just not even an option. And I think about like, damn, like I don't know how to move on sometimes when I think about past relationships or situationships I've been in, and I'm just like, well, I'm just gonna stay in this place until I figure it out. But I feel arrested, like, arrested development. There is this call where you are trapped in that relationship in '08, that relationship in 2012, and how I don't know how we got to this part, but like moving on, I think about emotions and intelligence, empathy. It's just there isn't a playbook, or there wasn't one when I was growing up. And now you have to actively seek. Like you have to be, okay, how to move on 101. Let's listen to a podcast. Let's watch a YouTube video on that. And I just don't, you get so comfortable in how you just been, as you were saying, there's a lot of unlearning. And sometimes it feels like it never ends. Like, oh, can I just be here? Can I just be here? No, you have to. Oh, we gotta unlearn that too. Like, oh, you have an attitude problem in the morning. We gotta unlearn that. Like, can I just have an attitude?
So one of the things that I tell people, I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, I've had a lot of experience with like talking people through moving on, and like the biggest thing that I tell people is that you got to forgive yourself for like making a bad decision. Like one of my best friends, went through a divorce, and like I remember telling him like, hey, dog, you just got to forgive yourself. Like you chose the wrong woman. It happens. You know what I'm saying? Like we've all been there, and we put so much stock in ourselves and our ability to like make the right decision that like our self-esteem gets wrapped up into it, right? People choose the person, and that's really all bad relationships. Like you chose the wrong person, you ignore some cues, you ignore some things that would have let you know that this was the wrong person, and you just kept trugging on because that's what we do. We trug on. We get comfortable in our situations and we trug on. Like you gotta take a step back and be like, you know what? I chose the wrong person, right? Like for whatever reason, like I don't know what I was going through at the moment, I chose the wrong person, or I was not in the right space at the time of said relationship to act accordingly or to elevate this relationship. Whatever, it happens. You're like, human beings are not really good at this. You're like, we're not great at this. Like the fact that I remember hearing a lot about like how marriages, like the divorce rate was at like 50%. I think of that as a success. Like, because like that's a lot. Like that's a lot of marriages that end up working, you know what I'm saying, or go the long haul. Because human beings aren't good at this. We're not good at making long-term decisions like that. Like in any arena, you know what I'm saying, like occupationally or whatever, like we're not even good at choosing like the right musicians to like be fans of. Like we're not good at this. So
we can't even pick the right song when we're in the car.
Right, like you have to learn to like forgive yourself. Right, and I think that's one of the biggest obstacles I've seen from people, because like people just beat themselves up. Like how could I be so stupid? I could like, well, people are stupid sometimes. Like the thing about stupidity is if you can unlearn it and take the message and apply that, then you're good. But like, yeah, you got to forgive yourself first. So.
Ooh, that's a word. Oh my gosh, Jones.
That
okay.
Is a bar. It's a bar. I'm telling you.
A whole bar. Okay, rapper Jones, MC Jones. I love that. Forgive yourself. We're not perfect. We make mistakes and we fall short, and it's okay. You can move on. You can do better. Oh, that's so good. Okay, to wrap us up, Obama's on a tour. He released a book, and do you have it already? Oh my gosh. I was like, this guy, a book nerd. Like the whole bookshelf behind. I love it. Okay. So
I've been watching nothing but Obama interviews the last like 2 weeks. So yeah, I'm about to dive into this tonight.
Okay, good. Okay, so I forgot to add it to the agenda, but you're already well versed. So there, I think it was on the Breakfast Club, or was it with the Oprah interview? But he was asked, what's your critique on people's negative, critique on you for not doing enough for Black people when you were in office for 8 years, and I believe he said, he had a lot of work couldn't have been done because of the 200 years, and because of our history. What do you say on that? Because there is a lot of, after the fact, while he was not in prison, while he was in the presidency, my president is Black, Jeezy was on, you have the shirts on, like, oh, okay, my president looks like me. Great. Now, since he's been out of the office, there's been such harsh critique on his role, and what he could have done, what he shouldn't have done, and all this X, Y, and Z. What's your, like, what do you think about that? Because I think it's tricky, yes, there is a lot of there's a lot of work to be done, and where do you begin? But people feel like, he didn't begin anywhere. Like, what could he have done, or what did he do? Maybe we missed it.
We missed a lot. A lot is missed because Obama didn't brag about a lot of the things that he did. I won't say that he did for Black people, because I don't think he sat down and said, let's enact this policy because it will absolutely help African Americans and only African Americans. I think what he sat down and said was, let's enact some things that will affect people of marginalized groups, of which African Americans are, at the bottom. This really, we're harmed more than other groups. So, like, the changing over it was the disparity between crack and cocaine, like the sentences that were doled out from there. Like, that's something that affects Black people more. The ACA, like, yeah, a lot of people across the country did not have health insurance, but this was, disproportionately African Americans who were left out of, having standard health care. My brother's keeper, which I have criticisms of, but like, that was something that was aimed specifically at Black men. The cash for clunker, like, there's a lot of things on his record that he did, like, changing up some of the immigration law. Like, there was a lot of things that he did that had positive effects towards Black people. Hell, his first year in office, they raised the federal funds for HBCUs. Like, this is his first year.
Right,
like
he did do that. Yeah.
Yeah, like 40 billion a year. Like, there are a lot of things trying to make community college free for all people. Like, these are things, these are ideas that are now kind of mainstream in the Democratic Party that started in the Obama administration. And I think that he couldn't just come out here and be like, yeah, we're going to do this thing for Black people, because of just the stigma of doing things for Black people in this country has never gone well. Like, and I think that speaks to just the larger caste system, the larger, like, caste hierarchy that we have in this country, where if people even think that what you're doing is going to disproportionately affect Black people positively, then it loses support. Like, Obamacare was so unpopular because the myth was that it was being done specifically for Black people as a handout, right? So, like, and the support for it dropped immediately. And then just anything that Obama himself put forth lost support because it was seen through the lens of race. So I think Obama did a lot of things for Black people. Could he have done more? Yeah, but I would extend that to say that the federal government should do more. That was the Breakfast Club interview where he said, like, you can't expect for him to do things in 8 years that it took decades, centuries to get to this point in the first place. It's not going to be solved in 2 presidential terms, especially with an intractable. I can't say this word, but with a Republican Congress and Senate that was out to make him a one-term president. Like, I think despite those things, I think he did excellent in like transformative things. My issues with Obama are more on the social level, like the way that he would kind of talk down to certain black people, kind of on the Bill Cosby pull your pants up and kind of, perpetuate this myth that black men are not, or deadbeats or not in their kids' lives, which studies show is incorrect. So like that's where my criticism of Obama comes from. I think he could have been more of a fighter on certain things. I also understand why he was not. So on a policy level, I think he he lived up to the most part of what he wanted to do. I think on a social level, I think he was a little bit more disappointing to me. Somebody who like very much looks up to him. I think he was disappointing in certain areas.
Mm-hmm. Now, I agree with that. I didn't like the whole Bill Cosby. I didn't like his rhetoric around, how black men should behave and, just their. Do you think that's because they're, a lot of older black men, the elderly, they were raised in a certain way, to be respectable, to look presentable, to, not have your pants low. Is that, would you still say that's talking down to black people or black men in particular, or is it just like a generational gap?
I think it's both. I think with the thing with Obama, you got to understand like who he is. Obama is a half white, half black dude who lives in Hawaii, who from Hawaii went to, Occidental. From there was to like Ivy League, Columbia, Harvard. I think in order for him to be who he is, he has to be able to see things from a black and white perspective. And sometimes too much of his white side comes out.
Right.
Yeah, it's like the whole, perpetuating the myth about black men as fathers and stuff like that, and whatever. Like that's part of his white side. I would hope it's part of his white side. But like I think that just what makes him him. You know what I'm saying? It's why he's not as optimistic. Not pessimistic about race relations and racial progress in America, is because he has to see it from like this hope, this optimistic, hopeful perspective. Which if you've been just strictly black your entire life, you've grown up in inner cities, you've seen segregation at the highest level, like it's hard for you to be as optimistic as he is. But like I said, he has to be that way in order for him to be who he is and be able to try to do the big things that he's done. Like he couldn't have done it with like Jesse Jackson's perspective on race. Like it just wouldn't have worked.
Right. Okay. Final. I know I keep on saying final, but I can talk. I can talk.
AirPods about to die.
I know, sorry. Okay. So President-elect Joe Biden is the president-elect, and the whole Republican Party is feeling that it was fraudulent and that Trump will get the next 4 years and it's going to the Supreme, or that it already is in the Supreme and they're figuring it out. Like it's as if like it's so much like they feel this so intently that I'm feeling like, is there going to be a twist? Like, is it going to be a plot twist? Like, is it not secure that Joe Biden is the president-elect? Is it not secure that he will be inaugurated? Does it really matter if Donald Trump concede? Because it seems like, because he didn't concede, that means Joe Biden is not officially the president-elect. Like, I'm not privy on this. Are you?
There's no law that says that a president needs to concede or anybody needs to concede. No, it's I'll say 95%, probably more than that, by 98%. The 2% I give is like you can't put nothing past these white people. But like
right
outside of that, yeah, it's been certified in all the states that he won. Electoral votes are there. All the recounts have come in his favor. Like this, he can't make it past like the district court. You can't make it past the circuit court. Like they're striking down like all these lawsuits. So like it won't even make it to the Supreme Court because you got to get past the other courts. But yeah, he will not be president as of January 20th. But again, can't put them past these white people, man.
Right. To be continued.
I know, right?
Okay, awesome. Thank you, T. Jones. Thank you,
Thank
Jones.
you. I appreciate it. Finally.
Yes, finally. And we could definitely
Finally.
do it again for sure.
Absolutely. Whenever you need me.
Yay. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Bye, you
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of God Built This Podcast with your host, Maxine. Be sure to leave a review, give me 5 stars, and of course, subscribe. Also, follow God Built This Podcast on Instagram at God Built This Pod. God bless.